Um, when we tie it back to why we need to care, I think of three things here. And, why do we care about anything, right? It's like, we show up day in, day out. Why do we care? Number one is the people. I despise any, like, the human resources element. It's people. We have human beings, other friends, loved ones, sons, daughters, mothers, fathers, grandparents, children. We have people that are a part of this organization contributing to a common good. And if you're able to adopt technology to move your team forward, if you're able to adopt technology to lift up your people, you're giving them permission to actually become their best version of self. And then they get to contribute that back to their neighbors. They get to contribute that to their communities, to the teams that they serve, to the people and customers they serve all around the world. So when we think about why does this matter? Why is automation important? Why is the work that we do important? It's our people. It's the way in which we live. And when we think of that, it then takes us to our performance, because everyone has a desire to contribute. We have this natural desire to provide significance and meaning into our world by giving our energies and our efforts to make the things around us better. I don't know one person who tries to get worse on a daily basis. I don't know that as the intention. It's just not how we occur as a species. If you think of the way we want to perform in a meaningful way, we want to deliver results and outcomes that are impactful, that make the lives of the people we care about better, or the people that we serve better. So we're looking to create those best practices and highly desired outcomes. And automation gives us the ability to do that. And when you pair people with performance, we get permanence. We get that ability to create sustainable success by differentiating, by understanding and having a deeper sense of how we can contribute, by having a deeper sense of what value and what meaning we're actually making, and really leaning into that certainty of exactly where we're channeling our energy and what we are doing as a team, as an organization.
Might I add a footnote to that permanence?
Please.
Okay. One of the things that the average time to go ahead and replace persons are about 2 months, 57 days. The cost, minimal cost, is $4,000, but what that doesn't include, when you bring on somebody on board, they need to come up to speed. So for the first 6 months, there's a lot of sunk cost.
Completely.
And on the flip side, essentially, those good people that you manage to go ahead and bother, okay, they're going to take what they've learned and do it at your competitors.
Absolutely. And by the way, just in terms of the jump, I'm not going to get into demographics and generations, though. What's common amongst peers and people in technology, they know they can jump and get a 20 to 30% bump just about any time they go once they've developed certain acumen. And I'm certain almost everyone on this call has had these conversations with friends and peers. You're talking strategically about the things that you're doing in your life, what's in your best interest. And a 3% increase on an annual basis doesn't cut it. And so there's an element of saying, what does permanence really mean? And this actually ties into our community, the family that we build of the people that we play with, the people we work with. And when you adopt and enable systems that make your lives easier, that give you the space to create and contribute, you're lit up. You have the excitement and the joy to say, I get to go to work today. I get to, join on the team. There's something that's been on my mind. I know Joe's got that thing. I was thinking about it last night. I got to tell him because I came up with something last night. You're invested. And that's a big part of that level of permanence where you address what you just said. The retention issue slowly fades away because you've built this entity and this belief system that what you're doing truly matters. And you're in it for more than just yourself. You're building something that's going to outlast you.
Well, I think the other thing that kind of comes into play is if you love what you do, and not to say that money isn't important, but it's not as important.
Right.
You don't want to go ahead and say, get a 10% raise or somewhere else.
It's not the only factor.
Where you can have a miserable time.
Right. No, oftentimes, in fact, I've seen, and I'll have to pull the data for you next time. I don't have it in this talk. Though the number one thing that impacts retention is management style, is the direct report. And if the people have a tight relationship with their direct report, they'll often compromise salary to be able to stay in a place where they have meaningful relationships. And that goes back to that human connectedness. I'm almost out of time, so I'm going to keep going because I know Q&A is coming.
And that goes back to the management making the bonus, right? So it's not
ties
necessarily
right back
the best example.
I love that you guys put pieces together. That's why I love having these conversations.
Just to quickly, another piece is that, hey, why do management need to do this when we can go abroad, get it cheaper, and they may train themselves this way, and we pull them in a lot cheaper than doing ourselves?
Yep, correct.
You don't have to answer that if you don't want to.
I didn't hear it as a question. I heard it as a declarative.
Yeah, I say, what about, because obviously we're doing that a lot now in the last 10 years, and at some point it will break even and we start bringing these ideas back. But
David, if you could for me, put that one in the chat for Lionel to pick up, and that I hopefully will tag that as question number 1 in Q&A.
Okay.
Sick. This is so much fun. You guys are awesome. In terms of the topics of collective rethinking. So this is the thought process that we have the ability to come back to the drawing board and really take our time and say, what's possible now that we have access to these new technologies, now that we have access to these new ways of working, these new ways of thinking. And it's really our responsibility to do a couple things. One, to defer our judgment. And that's not just our judgment of ideas, which I hope everyone here practices, to where we leave space for people to be able to create and suggest and really, share that expression, because we need to be able to be heard. We need to make sure that people have the space to contribute. So then that moment where something meaningful shows up, they're not going to hold it back. But this also means deferring our judgment in the people that we choose to become. And so often do I see people holding themselves back from taking that next step in leadership, from taking that next project, because they don't necessarily have that confidence, and they currently they respond to someone and there's a rapport and a pre-existing relationship, or just some social interaction that inhibits them from stepping into their next version of self that will be an improvement for them. And so I'd invite everyone to defer your judgment on the people looking to make that next change that may be uncomfortable, that they may not have clarity in making, and being that kind and supportive voice to say, hey, I see you. I see the work that you're doing. I see what you're capable of, and keep going. I'm here as a resource. So that's a beautiful piece. The other piece is embracing ambiguity. And we've talked about that a couple times around, change is constant. It's a universal law. So the ability to embrace ambiguity, some of the best innovations happen by mistake. Some of the best innovations happen and, you didn't intend on. Again, it's not an adventure if it was planned, if it's going as planned, right? This element to where you go out and you figure out something new, and you're going to take that. I think, there was a story where Gmail was actually created based on the off time of one of the individual team members. The actual service that, most people use as their email provider was the passion project. And when you give space for those passion projects for something else to happen, that's really where some sweetness lives. So I always like to highlight that. Now, if we're going to